Have you wanted to get into the $500 billion IoT managed service market, but thought there were just too many things to learn or that you had to get certified before you could sell your first deal? Well, in this episode of IoT Playbook, I interview Walter Silin, a Denver-based Azure developer who went from zero IoT experience to selling his first IoT deal to a restaurant chain in less than 2 weeks. And on top of that, his client was able to install the equipment themselves. And Walter has only had one support call from the client in 6 months, which turned out to be a dead battery in one of the IoT sensors. So, in this IoT playbook, you're going to learn how he discovered the solution, how he sold his first deal, and how he's gone on to sell breweries and healthcare facilities with the same exact solution. And you're going to learn about a special regulation that literally requires healthcare facilities to get the solution that you're going to sell. So, why don't you just head on over to podcast.iotplaybook.com, where I'll show you the actual playbooks IoT managed service providers are using to make 6 and 7 figures or more of recurring revenue right now. Okay, hey, this is Mark Smith, and welcome to another episode of IoT Playbook. And with me today is Walter Silin. And tell me more about your company there, Walter.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, so we are the Bowen Group. Originally started in Houston, and we've expanded it to the Denver area. And we have always been more of a software development and data-related company. We specialize in Azure cloud solutions, building mobile applications, Office 365, Microsoft Dynamics, those kind of things.
Great. I've also got Brian Balowski.
Perfect. Nailed
Sweet.
It. That was great.
From My Devices, and he's here. And I invited Brian. I attended one of your webinars this week and was utterly fascinated by it. So, one of our follow-up conversations to that is, hey, do you know anybody that has really moved from a place where they weren't doing any IoT and got into IoT through, by partnering with your company? And you say, yeah, I got a guy. His name is Walter from Denver. And that is the basis of our conversation. So, and later on we'll be telling how you can maybe watch that webinar that I saw from My Devices. But hey, let's get into it. So, Walter, tell me how you got into what you're doing now, and maybe how you discovered, IoT as an opportunity, or that it came on your radar screen.
Sure. Yeah, I will say that we don't touch hardware. We've always been software development team, and that's just never been our thing. So, a lot of people looked at me when I said I was getting into this and said, "What are you doing?" But I met Brian at a conference, and you should see a demo of it if you haven't. The mousetrap. It's one of the coolest little devices that they've got.
Everyone loves the mousetrap.
The mousetrap's awesome. And
all right, what's the mousetrap?
So we have as part of our IoT solutions, right? We've got a connected mousetrap. So we have built a bigger, better mousetrap. But surprisingly, it's a big deal. Let me just for 2 seconds, I'll touch on this. Right, you take a customer like a stadium, and they've got hundreds of rodent traps, and they pay pest control operators something like $250 a day to come in and walk around the stadium and look at all those traps to see if they've caught anything. So through IoT, now we have a connected mousetrap that notifies the stadium and can notify the pest control operator when something's been caught. So they no longer have to spend that $250 a day driving out there checking all the traps. Now they're getting notified, hey, the trap went off, I caught a mouse.
I think the city of LA and San Francisco could probably use your solution right now. All right, that's it for another day. But anyway, okay, so you go to a conference. And by the way, so as an Azure, when you say you're doing Azure stuff, you're doing custom development or?
Yeah. So web applications, a lot of integration of applications, an existing application being integrated with maybe a custom built one, or maybe two separate applications that we get them talking, that kind of stuff.
Well, and of course, Microsoft themselves is pushing the whole IoT thing too, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I had definitely heard the three letters mentioned, but beyond that, I hadn't really dove into it at all.
All right.
I wandered by Brian's booth, and I just
What show was that, by the way?
that was an Ingram micro show.
Okay, all right.
And so I looked over there, and I saw this mouse. It looked like a mouse trap on there, and I was like, what on earth is that? And I walked in there, and we set it up, and I think I made him do it 5 times.
I lose more business cards that way.
Exactly. Mangled.
So how did you then bridge from the mousetrap to like thinking about pursuing an opportunity with IoT?
Sure. Yeah. We started talking after the fun kind of subsided a little bit, and we started talking about it. And he started telling me about how their goal is to make allow businesses to become more efficient, and that has always been one of my biggest pitches to people when I talk to them. I'm not, when we build custom solutions for people, we're generally replacing the manual download to a spreadsheet, copy it over here, let's upload it over to this other website. We build those automations so that they happen automatically or very quickly and with no human intervention. So even though a lot of people looked at me kind of sideways, that people that knew me for a while, what are you getting into this device thing? I'm all about coming up with more efficient solutions, and they have it, and I loved as I started digging into the catalog, more and more solutions. You can come up with a use case for all these things. And the temperature monitoring is the big one that we work with now, because it's just a no-brainer. Paying somebody to walk around with a clipboard and a thermometer is not a good use of a person's time.
So tell me about that. So which solution did you pitch first to? And was it a new client, existing client, or what?
New client. And it was definitely temperature. And it was a restaurant chain that was a small chain. They had some stores in San Diego and some stores in Hawaii. And I said, it's got to be difficult to visit all your stores in 1 week. And you probably get stuck in Hawaii, right? But I kind of talked to them. I just happened to know. I knew the guy who was on their legal team, actually, their in-house counsel, and I just kind of called him up and said, "Would you guys be interested in trying this out?" And they jumped on it. It's like having eyes and ears across the ocean. It was something that they had kind of looked around at and just really had never found anything that would kind of handle or give them that visibility.
So now, okay, so tell me more about the solution, what it does, what problem it solves for your restaurant client. And, did My Devices then also sort of make you aware of that problem existed, so that you became problem aware? Then you could then talk to the restaurant client and say, hey, do you have this problem?
Yeah, absolutely. My Devices opened my eyes to all these different solutions as I started going down the list and saying, okay, so you've got a temperature monitor. Tell me about the temperature monitoring solution. Honestly, the the problem that I thought of would have been my own personal home solution, which would be the little wine chiller. And I was like, if it goes off, you're going to lose your wine. And absolutely, that's one application. But then we started talking about all these other applications, and besides restaurants, you've got hospitals, you've got pharmacies inside of hospitals, you've got food manufacturing solutions or situations. So all of those kind of added up to, there's a huge opportunity here, and I would have never thought about it. And quite frankly, it's like, once you put it in there, it's not a problem that goes away. It's not a one-time project like when I build an integration from one system to another, or some of my MSP friends that go out there and they do a one-time project to migrate some servers to the cloud, and then they're done, and there's not much more business. This is recurring revenue over and over again. And once you realize that, then you look at it, the opportunity, and it's everywhere.
So is there some regulation that restaurant owners have that they have to do, or is it just, hey, they got refrigeration, so they have to do it? But is there some government entity that's also checking their refrigeration, or is it just the cost of doing business?
Yeah, locally, food inspectors. I think Brian would probably know more about the individual states and how those regulations play out. But every state or county or city, municipality, somebody, everywhere there's a commercial fridge, somebody or multiple somebodies is watching over them.
Yeah, and if I could just
go for it.
Yeah, when we launch a new solution to our partners, we love looking for those opportunities that are compliance driven, where there is a process that a business is doing currently manually by hand that we can automate, and they are responsible for reporting that information to some government agency. So in the case of the restaurant, right, you've got the public health department and the FDA, and they're subject to inspection at any time. Inspector can walk in and say, all right, show me your temperature logs. Definitely, if they have an incident, right, they have a food poisoning incident, then the inspector is definitely going to show up, the next day and say, show me your temperature logs. And they have to record temperatures. I think for restaurants is every 6 hours, I believe. The inspectors are really savvy to, it looks like an employee just went and filled out the log at the end of the day and just made up numbers. That used to be acceptable, but it's not anymore. And there's some pretty hefty fines that can accompany if you can't prove that you've been serving things that have been stored at the proper temperature. Obviously, in healthcare, those fines go through the roof. So we're protecting against that, in addition to protecting against, like Walter said, product loss. It would stink to show up Saturday morning, one of your refrigerators gave out overnight, and now you got to, dump all that product and lose the business for a Saturday,
right?
Because you can't serve.
So you go from the Ingram show, you see the mousetrap, you see the restaurant type temperature thing, and you think, all right, I'm going to call my buddy who works for a chain, the lawyer guy, who then puts you in touch with who to actually pitch this thing.
It was the manager for one of their concepts. I guess they had two concepts, and this guy had was kind of a more technical savvy person. So he was really interested in a gadget device kind of thing, and so he was really receptive. So it was kind of an easy win for the first client to talk to, and just said, hey, do you want to, would you be interested in doing a 30-day trial? I'll send you a little gateway and 5 devices and throw them in your refrigeration units and see how it does.
So you didn't have to go out to a client. I mean, literally, he was able to install this himself.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the app is it guides you. I mean, you download the app, you and give it access to your camera, and then it scans a QR code figures out what the device is, and tells you as the user, here's how you hook it up.
So, okay, so tell me about the ways, so you're obviously getting charged by my devices, then you're able to go charge the client. So how does that work? What are you actually selling them? And then what's the recurring service fee you're getting?
Right.
If you don't mind saying.
So it depends upon what device you've got. So we purchase a device, and we generally, from a kind of a cost recovery standpoint, price the devices so that we're getting our initial investment back in around 6 months. And the contracts go for years, right? And so after that, it's your monthly monitoring, and occasionally you get a call saying, "Hey, I'm not getting a reading on a certain device, and it's generally going to be the battery has gone out." And so you just tell them, "All right, I'll have another one there in a couple of days, and send that one back."
Okay. And then they get their own app to monitor the solution. And then you have some sort of a app where you can monitor across your different clients, or how does that work?
Yeah. So there's both of those. There's an app for each individual client, and they go in there and they can see all their different stores and all the different devices at each store, whether it's inside the range that they've set for that application, whether it's a refrigerator or a freezer, or if it's a door opening and closing. And then we have the other one, the master app, so to speak, that allows you to kind of jump into and kind of impersonate each one of those clients, so you can kind of see what they're seeing.
Okay, cool. So like you can monitor across your different clients.
Mm-hmm.
So so going from mousetrap to sale, about how long did that take for that first deal?
So I had a long delay between those two things, but not due to effort. It literally, right after Mousetrap, I had a big project come up and literally put this thing on the shelf, dusted it off about 6 months later, and said, "I'm going to go do this." And it took about a week and a half from the time I talked to a lawyer friend before we had the thing shipped for the first deal. And so, and I mentioned the 6 month gap there because I probably had forgotten half of the things that Brian had told me when I first met him during that time. I just knew, oh yeah, and I dug up the email, reread my pricing. I didn't even remember what the pricing was, but I boom, called him up and did a quick little PowerPoint that I put together, 6 slides, and the guy's like, "Sure, I'll try it out. It's a free trial. Why not?" And they've never taken them out since, and added more.
And how long's that been?
It's been, I don't know, 6 months.
Okay. And so when you say added more, like added more sensors?
Yeah. I've yet to have anybody downgrade that. It's more of an expansion, a slow expansion.
So Brian, so like one gateway, once you put that in, you can put in like how many devices on there?
Hundreds.
Okay.
Hundreds, yeah.
And it's wireless. So how wide an area can you cover?
So you've got this, this tiny gateway, about twice the size of a phone, and that guy can communicate. If it was in a field, line of sight, we're talking 3 miles between the sensor and the gateway.
Okay.
So you stick it in. I mean, definitely a restaurant, right? You can cover that thing from top to bottom, back to front. But even multi-story buildings, you put a gateway on the middle floor, cover up to the roof, down to the basement.
So it's connecting not via the company's Wi-Fi necessarily, but
Correct.
on its own network. Okay.
Correct. Yeah,
cool.
We're leveraging the LoRaWAN protocol between the device and the gateway.
Okay. So Walter, any other examples, any other case studies since that that particular restaurant one?
Sure. I mean, I think we've repeated that a few times. The most recently, we had a restaurant here in Denver, that Denver area, that they just put up a brand new. It's a huge restaurant slash brew pub, and so they're using it not only in their. It's 3 stories. Just to illustrate the range that Brian's talking about. It's 3 stories. There's sensors on all 3 floors. They're and going down into a basement. There's freezer and commissary down there. There's the brewing units, and then there's the regular kitchen, and then there's up on the top floor. There's coolers up there too for um, beverages and for parties. So that range covers this whole building. I can't remember. It's 30,000 square feet, something huge like that, plus all the all the walls and everything, and it just goes right through everything. It's one hub can cover a huge range.
Okay. And same thing, you're measuring the temperatures and you're doing the logs and all that kind of stuff. And I'm assuming, Brian, that those logs then meet whatever regulations they are, so that, you show a regulator these electronic logs and they go, oh, yeah, you've got everything and then some, compared to a paper log.
Totally. Yeah. We've designed, different types of reports for different industries, because healthcare a little different than food services. So we meet all of those requirements for the different verticals.
So when a regulator comes in, do they just hand them like a printout of a log, or could they literally provide like a gateway or something that allow that regulator to access their data in real time or something like that?
They could. They probably wouldn't, because they don't want to give them access to everything.
Yeah, right.
But no, I mean, they could. They could bring up the app on their computer or their phone, and then they could, they say, well, what do you want to see? You want to see data from yesterday? Do you want to see the logs from, the past month? And then with a few clicks of a button, they could just download that specific report.
Yeah, and I've actually been told that situations where they come in and the refrigerator happens to be slightly high right at the moment when they walk in, and they're able to go back and show, look at the 24-hour history. It's been in temperature. It's just because we've been going in and out.
Right. Okay. I've been letting too many regulators in there.
Exactly. Get out of my fridge.
Any other? So you've done restaurants and now this sort of brew pub kind of a thing, which is cool. By the way, which one was that? I go down there all the time.
Lariat.
Okay. All right. Cool. So what about other industries? Because I know on your website, Walter, I saw that you do healthcare and some stuff. I don't know if you've gotten in there with that yet, or.
We're actually just started working on that. We were at a conference, Colorado Hospital Association, a few weeks back, and we had a really good response. So working on setting up a few demos there. It's but similar situation, between they have cafeterias on site in larger hospitals, or where there's people staying overnight, and then on top of that, you have some kind of pharmaceuticals that have to be refrigerated at all times. So there's a need there just as much as there is in restaurants.
So that's one thing when I was watching your webinar, Brian, you're talking about this JCO, which I didn't even look. I've heard of HIPAA as another regulation that medical guys have, but then I heard JCO. Like, what is JCO, and why do these guys what do they need to do about it?
Well, they'll kill us for calling them JCO, because they've tried their best to stamp out that abbreviation. The Joint Commission, the Joint Commission on Health. But that's the governing body that's the regulatory body that governs the healthcare industry, right? So they set the standards by which hospitals need to perform. And one of those standards is inside of temperature monitoring. So how often do they need to check the temperatures in all of their, pharmacy, lab, food service, refrigeration units?
Okay. So now they're regulated. Now you could come in and help solve that issue, and the same kind of thing. They got to if they don't have a system like yours, they got to maintain paper logs and
Yes.
Okay. And that would cover what all you said, the food stuff, the pharmaceuticals, the
Yep. Labs, freezers, blood banks. I mean, everything that
blankets that touch the
blanket warmers. Blanket warmers actually can't be too hot because if that's going on an elderly
right.
customer,
Okay.
it can cause burns. So all those things need to be monitored. And most hospitals actually pay nurses. It's part of the nurses, rounds to check those temperatures. So here's a $65 an hour employee spending an hour of their total day recording temperature. It's just mind-boggling from a cost of labor perspective.
So because that's a big regulation thing. So let's say that you got in with what's typical thing to sort of get in with on the healthcare side? Is it any one of those or?
Yeah, so it's any one of those. Yeah, typically you don't need to go right to the top. You can just start in a department. You can contact the director of pharmacy or labs or food and nutrition and just start with one department in the hospital and, pitch the solution, show the ROI. And then from there, it'll expand. Once that solution gets inside of the food and nutrition department, they're going to take it to the pharmacy and take it to the lab. So yeah, in general, when we do our sales trainings for our partners, we say you don't need to. It grows very much from the bottom up. You get into one Marriott hotel, and they'll start making the introduction to the other Marriotts. You don't have to go right to corporate and say, "Hey, I've got a solution to sell all 600 locations of yours." Just start small, and it spreads like wildfire.
So then, you could do something like a quarterly business review where you go in and meet with a client and then saying, hey, let's talk about your other needs and kind of upsell them on the other stuff. What about, so are there any, are you selling any other adjacent services? I mean, I guess you get paid a recurring fee on the gateway plus all the sensors, plus I guess whatever your connectivity is back to the carrier, right? Do you...
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you could choose. Yeah, you could choose. Walter, I'm not sure if you're using Ethernet gateways or cellular gateways, but
mostly we're using Ethernet. We have a cellular for demo purposes, but pretty much everybody already has their internet and is doing the Ethernet connection that I've run into.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So yes, Mark. If you are. If you want to stay completely off the customer's network, then you could leverage a cellular connection.
Okay.
Solution.
And so are you selling adjacent things like any other managed security services or stuff like that, Walter, along with that, or just this gateway and the sensors? Or
yeah, right now our main thing is just pulling the data together for analytics. That would be because that's really our specialty.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So giving them an additional dashboard view or something like that, pulling the data together in a slightly different way, or meshing that with other data that they have that it doesn't have to do with the sensor.
Okay. So selling a custom dashboard or a custom app that yanks the data out of the My Devices ecosystem and does because the data on this I would imagine is pretty extensive.
It's high volume. Yeah, I mean every 20 minutes, every sensor, and each sensor is potentially taking 3, 4, 5 readings. Temperature, humidity, or maybe 2 different temperature readings potentially. So it adds up quick.
So now is that setting all that up to the cloud then? Like every 20 minutes, or is it doing some stuff locally like Intelligent Edge, or how does that work?
Every time I think I know exactly how it's set up, I'm wrong. I'll let Brian do that
one. So currently, and this is kind of the state of the ecosystem, I would say. It's sending the data direct to cloud. We're doing a lot of innovation. Other of our partners are doing a lot of innovation to bring that intelligence to the edge. so that gateway can actually filter, decide what it's going to send up or what's necessary to send up to the cloud. Right now, it's just passing through, temperature device takes a reading, shoots it up. Mousetrap takes a reading, shoots it right up to the cloud. But yeah, the right now the brains are on our platform, but some of those brains are going to go down.
And so, being a software developer, are you tapping then into like an API that's part of my device's sort of platform yet? Or
yeah, they've got some really convenient integrations that actually took a lot of the fun stuff out of it from us.
Okay,
it's like, oh, you mean we just plug in some parameters and now we have data? Oh, okay. Well, okay, I'm done with that. Moving on to the next project.
Oh, I mean, okay, so like using Zapier instead of having to use, Azure and API and all that heavy duty stuff.
It's all built. I don't know what they built it with, but you just go up there and say integrations, click on it, and plug in some parameters, and you have a little bit of setup on your end to receive it. But other than that, it's pretty quick and easy.
Coming from a developer, that's pretty cool.
Annoying, whatever.
Oh, great. So, so you said you just pitched the healthcare deal. Any other markets that you're looking to get into with this?
Well, we have, having originally started in Texas, we have some energy clients and quite a few actually, and we've been talking with them. They don't really care about temperature and things like that, but they're, they. To some degree, they do on some of the machines and equipment and things like that. But we've been talking with some of them about some solutions out there, that potentially more custom solutions for drilling exploration type things.
Huh. Interesting. Okay. And so that would be more different sensors that you guys have available then to do that application?
Different sensors and potentially custom sensors, depends upon what the application is. Like right now, I can't go into too much detail on this one, but I've been talking with a field services company that one of our challenges is figuring out what kind of sensor would really be the best one for a particular device they're trying to use to measure things out in the field. And then the other side is that communication and buffering piece. And I've been working with some of my devices people on kind of working through that. It's kind of a slower process of ideation, but it's a pretty cool concept. Kind of collect all that data in the field and kind of batch it out at night. Or where we're going, because they don't have a lot of network out there. So you kind of got to do it when you have connectivity.
So Brian, then, so the restaurant type of temperature app and even the healthcare one, those are pretty off the shelf, meaning, they're prepackaged, but you guys also have services that if he runs into a use case like this one he's talking about, oil and gas, whatever, that you have some engineers that can help him design that.
Exactly, yeah. And then we've got a lot of partnerships with manufacturers. So when we get a custom request like that, we can turn around to our 117 some odd manufacturing partners and say, hey, who can help us with this custom solution.
Okay. All right. So Walter, I'm going to ask you one question. If there's somebody who's similar background, similar type of company, maybe an MSP or something like that, sitting in the sidelines, trying to decide what would you tell them?
Well, I'd say stay there. Leave more for me.
Great. Perfect answer there.
No, seriously, it's amazing to me how we've been able to just go out and have quick conversations with people we're already working with, and for me right now anyway, people either get it or they don't, and more people get it than don't, and then the 30-day free trial, put it in their hands, they won't give it back.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah, that's great. All right. So if somebody who's listening to this wanted to get a hold of you, Walter, what would you like? How should they do that? What's the best?
Sure. Yeah, we our website. We've got our healthcare, our devices, our solutions, all that stuff. It's probably a little complicated uh, going through all that. So I would just say, yeah, shoot me a message on LinkedIn, Walter Silin, Silin. That's generally I'm on there most of the day. That's kind of the easiest way to get a hold of me, really.
Okay, and I'll put a link to your LinkedIn in the show notes. Brian, my devices. What's the best way to get a hold of you and first steps? Somebody who's interested in getting into this.
Sure, great. I mean, I'd offer my LinkedIn as well as an easy way for them to reach out. But then our website, mydevices.com, every step of the way, we offer you a contact form. So
okay.
Definitely no shortage of ways to get in touch with me through the website. But the website will also, walk you through the different verticals that we have solutions for, our whole catalog of devices, give you a quick demo of the platform. So lots of information on my devices.
And I also would recommend, as I just watched your webinar that you do you said, how often do you do that?
Thanks for that. Yeah, we do webinars every 2 weeks. And on our website, I've got, there's a link there just to register for our next upcoming webinar.
I totally recommend that. I saw that. And, listen, I'm way into this IoT thing, running something like IoT Playbook, but I learned about 2 or 3 things on there that I went, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. And, able to follow up. Gave me some ideas, more regulations like JACO. Didn't know it was a thing. Now I know it's a thing. And now, but anyway, lots of things that you guys can solve that, again, your prospects, clients are struggling with paper logs, for corn's sake. And you need to get them out of that paper log business.
Yeah.
Do yourself and them a favor. Listen, I appreciate both of you coming on and telling your story. And anyway, look forward to hearing more stories in the future, Walter. Come on again when you've got another big win, especially this oil and gas deal or whatever else you get.
Sounds good. Love to.
All right. Thanks again,
cool.
Brian.
Thanks, Mark. Super appreciate it. Good talking.
Bye.